Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yuri Folarin. Well, today, let's start with a bit of culture. We'll kick off with a bit of culture, and then later on, we'll talk about, the news in terms of, the NSAS report. That the panel of inquiry has submitted its report. We'll talk about that after. But first, to start off with a bit of culture and assists that we get from time to time and from various places. And we're zeroing in particular on the U.S. Consulate Affairs, the Ambassadors Fund for Cultural Preservation. There is such a fund, and we'd like to find out all about it. And for that purpose, we have with us Mr. Kacey Hadick. We do have Mr. Kacey Hadick. He's an archaeologist. He's Director of Conservation Programs at CyArk, which is an NGO, and they are the implementing partners for this particular project. And then we have with us also, I'm afraid I missed that out. You're the U.S. Consulate Public Affairs Officer. Public Affairs Officer. Thank you very much for coming on the program.
Of course, it's sweet Ibelli to be here.
That's a nice bit of pidgin in there. Thank you very much. I thought we should find out about this. It's the Ambassadors Fund for Cultural Preservation. And since you have ambassadors all over the world, the U.S., I'm imagining that what we're benefiting from that fund here has also been in operation elsewhere before.
That's correct.
When was this fund established, the Ambassadors Fund for Cultural Preservation? When was it established?
That's a great question. It was actually started by Congress in 2001 to really show respect for cultures all around the world. This fund kicked off in Nigeria in 2011. We've had 11 projects since then, 11 successful projects, including the one that's happening in the Osun-Osogbo Sacred Grove, for about $1 million. And so it's also north and south in Nigeria, and it's a great component to the great relationship we have with Nigeria. We have a security relationship. We have an economic relationship. We have a very robust health relationship, and this cultural relationship also adds more to that dimension.
Now, it's a cultural preservation fund. I imagine you will be giving, can people get grants? Is it that people get grants from the funds, and what are they to do with those grants? Because I imagine there are sort of guidelines, you can't just take the money and do what you want with it.
Yeah, of course, that's correct. So it's a competition. It's a worldwide competition. Applications are actually open right now. They're open until December 5th. And all of that information is available on our website. It goes from documentation to preservation to even documenting sort of disappearing cultures or other kind of cultural artifacts. So it's all on our website, which is ng.usembassy.gov. And all of that information is there, and we really welcome museums, NGOs, all kinds of entities to apply.
Well, by the way, when I introduced him, I used his office, Public Affairs Officer, U.S. Consulate Affairs, but Stephen Ibelli. And you probably agree with me, it does sound like an Edo name.
Yes, I'm from Edo State.
Because when I heard Stephen Ibelli was coming, I said, oh, that's nice. Which state is he from? He said, actually, he's an American. I say, okay, I understand that. He's a Nigerian American. Say, no. But there you go. So Ibelli, the name does sound, although you have a double L in your name, yes. Ibelli might have, if it were Nigerian, probably will have just the one L. Now, you're here with Kacey Hadick, and Kacey is, as I said, an archaeologist, and he's Director of Conservation Programs at CyArk. CyArk is an NGO. You're implementing partner. What does that mean as it relates to the Ambassadors Fund, implementing partner?
That's exactly right. Yeah, CyArk is the grant recipient on this application, and so together with the National Commission of Museums and Monuments and the Adunio Larisha Trust, we'll be carrying out all of the work on this project. And so on this particular project, we're doing the digital documentation of the Busayan Shrine at the Osun-Osogbo Sacred Grove in order to develop a conservation plan. The site was damaged by flooding in 2019, and so this work will help in future restoration efforts.
Okay, now to be clear, it's the Busayan Shrine, and that's within the Osun Sacred Grove in Osogbo. And a lot of Nigerians will connect immediately up with Adunio Larisha, Susan Wengner, who came to Nigeria and adopted the Yoruba worldview, became a Nigerian and spent a very, very long time in Nigeria. I wonder if you're aware of relationships going back to then, because there you go, that's a picture of the Sacred Osun Grove, and that's part of the legacy that Susan Wegner left Nigerians. You know, she was an artist, she was, you know, and she even was experimental with her colors. But maybe I could bring that back to Stephen. Did you have any relations with, you know, the Osun Grove of that time as it was developing?
There's a long history of that relationship, and so we did have a nexus of cooperability and cooperation. And really, I think what's great about this project is we are taking this forward. We are teaching these skills to the next generation, so it will guarantee that the Grove will be in very, very good hands. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It is such a great heritage, a great treasure for Nigeria. And so this grant not only maps the shrine itself, but also trains the next generation to be able to take it forward.
And you just talking about it being a national heritage site. That's UNESCO.
It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
A UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it's one of two in Nigeria. The other being, I understand, Sukor in Adamawa State of Nigeria. You've been working on that as well, but everything in its own time period, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, that's another, you know, very well-known Nigerian in the cultural field. Nike is, you know, what she's, Madam Nike, she's popularly known. Now, I wanted to ask, you just said you help train people in this project. What does that mean? Because take, for instance, the Osun-Osogbo Shrine, and in this case, the Busayan Osun-Osogbo Sacred Grove, and then the Busayan Shrine within that grove. So what is it that you teach? Because the culture was here, this is where it was then arguably in some measure of ruins, and you helped to make sure, bring all these back together, rehabilitate it and all of that. So what is it exactly that you'll be teaching? Will it be the culture or the upkeep?
I think mostly it's the upkeep. I know Kacey can also speak to that as well. But in order to do restoration, if you're going if you're driving somewhere, in order to know where you're going, you need a map. And it's sort of the same thing with the shrine. In order to know how to restore it, you need to know really what it looked like from before.
Okay.
And training is always a component in some way to many of our grants. If you look at what we've done for museums, the Museum of National Unity in Enugu or Ibadan, we've done digitization training, for example, where museums can digitize some of their collection. All of that is training, because the training helps to put this forward long after the grant is concluded, long after the implementers have finished their work. People here on the ground who have this passion, who have this commitment to all of these sites, can carry this work forward.
You were telling me about mapping. Well, I don't know if you use the word mapping, but 3D, you know, you take a 3D image, and it seems to me that that's about seeing even things that might have disappeared, you know, going back in time. Tell me about that, because that's a lot of computerdom, digital work, and that kind of a thing, to try to see back into the past. And I imagine this is very regular to you being an archaeologist and all.
Yeah, no, this is a great question. And I think like the training that we're talking about here is training in how to use these technologies. And so our partners on this project are the National Commission of Museums and Monuments. And so the National Commission selected people from Osun State and then also throughout Nigeria to learn some of the techniques that we use. And so we use LiDAR, laser scanning, to document these places, in addition to a process called photogrammetry, where we take thousands of images and generate this really accurate 3D model that is accurate to the millimeter. And you can use that, like I mentioned, the site was damaged by flooding, to generate a plan of work to restore this site. And we're really grateful that this site has an active community. The Adunio Larisha Trust has a community of artisans that are still working to preserve this place. And so this effort is just to provide kind of a roadmap for them to do the restoration of this incredible shrine.
Okay. He spoke about the Adunio Larisha Trust. That, again, is Nigeria, Susan Wegner's adopted Nigerian name, Adunio Larisha. And it's a trust, and so you work, that is the Consulate works with that trust?
The relationship the Consulate has with this particular project is with CyArk, and then CyArk has involved all of those partners. But you're right, it takes a partnership, it takes multiple partners to really make these projects successful. It's not just the Consulate, it's not just one implementer, it's involving the community, it's involving the community leaders, it's involving the National Commission for Museums and Monuments. And sometimes that process can be slower because of all the multiple partners, but the result is always better.
Okay. Did you want to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the king of Osogbo also visited, and he shared a very personal, the Atoja of Osogbo, he shared a personal story about this shrine, and that his mother went there before he was even conceived and asked for a son. So I think like these places, cultural heritage, just you can see how important it is to the community, to personal histories, as a tourism draw. Yeah. This is now my second time, and I can't wait to come back to Nigeria.
You know, it's interesting that, okay, I got to go on a commercial break now, so but stay with us, and I'm going to come back and we'll a few more questions, and if we can, we'll even take one or two calls, depends on how it goes. Stay with us, please, we'll be right back. Okay, welcome back, and we're chatting this morning with Stephen Ibelli, U.S. Consulate Affairs Public Affairs Officer, and Kacey Hadick, who is an archaeologist and the Director of Conservation Programs at CyArk, which is an NGO and implementation partner of the U.S. Consulate, for the Ambassadors Fund for Cultural Preservation. I like that, the cultural preservation, and he was just telling us about still having people to work with, people who are, you know, of course, I was reminded of the Yoruba worldview, which I imagine you're very familiar with. I mean, everybody knows creation started where?
Olodumare.
There you go. That's where creation started from, and it's so working with all of these. It's like there's a need. Well, not so much a need. You wish to say this is important to the people culturally. It goes back eons, and we need to not lose that. And so whatever we can do, since it's a living kind of. We were talking about pantheons before coming on. This is a living culture, a living history, and there are people who actually still live it as their reality.
Absolutely.
They worship it, sure. They worship in there, and all of these need to be preserved, right? You're doing it right now in the shrine that I was talking about, Busanyi Shrine, but you've also done it in other places. There's the Sukkot in Adamawa. This is important.
It is important. You know, for a culture to really know where it's going, you have to know also where you have been, because that is how these things go from generation to generation to generation. And so we're working, you know, another project that we're working with is in Sombo Aredo in Epe, where we're really excavating.
Epe in Lagos State.
Yes, and really mapping the Osogbo kingdom and all of the canals that sort of went around and that kingdom. And that will also be documenting that, because no one really has a sense of what that looks like from the air. for example. So that's that is really, really important to go forward and to increase that knowledge and progress this idea, progress this knowledge, for future generations.
We're going to be showing some pictures, so that maybe you could talk us through those pictures. There you go. If you look there on the monitor,
Yeah, that was in IFA when we were preserving oral traditions. That is Ecom rock art. That is from Cross River and Jigawa states. And so we also hope to exhibit those sort of post-COVID as we get out of the pandemic at the National Museum in Calabar, as well as the National Museum in Lagos. And
who's that guy in the Adire? There's an Adire there too. You see?
Yeah, that's one of the curators. That also is the Ife cultural oral traditions, the oral tradition culture of Ifa. That we again worked with very, very closely with the IFA Heritage Institute, and so these are sort of a sampling of some of these.
Okay, I was talking about the guy extreme right on our screen.
That is one of our partners from the African Rock Art, or the Trust for African Rock Art. So again, bringing it back to partners, right? Bringing it back to that. We work very, very closely with the Trust. In establishing this exhibit and bringing the rocks to Calabar and also to Lagos.
Tell me, Stephen, who can apply to be, supported by this the Ambassadors Fund for Cultural Preservation? You did say it was something of a competitive nature.
It is competitive, and so you submit an application. It's open to museums. It's open to nonprofits. It's open to anyone really that is a non-profit. It really is targeted towards that. All of the information, all of the information is on our website. It's very, very detailed to go in. So I beg, make una send in application sharpo. The deadline now December 5th.
It's open till December 5th.
It's open till December 5th.
Okay. Well, you just heard them. Make una send in application, no. That's how willing. Now it's a $1 million.
Well, the fund, it's been $1 million since 2011. The ceiling, in other words, the floor, the minimum is $10,000, and it goes up to the ceiling of $500,000. So you can apply for any any amount of funding from $10,000 to $500,000.
And to get the details of that, you have to go to your website.
Yes.
There's very comprehensive stuff.
It is very comprehensive, and it talks about really what are the do's and the don'ts. So there are some don'ts. For example, we're not going to build a structure. For example, it's more about documenting, preserving. This kind of approach, but all of that information is on the website.
Does that, Kacey, stretch to excavation of sites?
Yeah, I think the AFCP doesn't typically fund excavation.
Because that's a real pricey number.
Yeah, it also disturbs the archaeology, and I think this AFCP is really about preserving cultural heritage, restoring certain places, but maybe pass it back to Stephen, but my understanding is excavation is not typically covered.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. But then staying... going back again to the 3D imaging that you work on there, I was just wondering, does that, because you're talking about not wanting to damage the site, so what kind of equipment does that, is it related, because look, men in hard hats, archaeologists from 1900s. It's not very much like that anymore, is it? Now you're aided by science. What kind of equipment is brought to bear on those kind of operations?
Yeah, so on this particular project, we worked with architects and surveyors from the National Commission of Museums and Monuments using these really high-tech tools. And so we had a GPS and a total station to kind of map in this site in space and understand its relationship with the river. That's the Osun River, which is right adjacent. Then we also use these LiDAR laser scanning, which uses millions of points to create a really accurate 3D model of that site, and then overlaid on top of that are thousands of photographs. So what you end up with is a really high resolution model that you can use to support the conservation, but also you can also tell stories about that place, put it online, create virtual reality experience of
Because
that
this
place.
will be documented and it will ultimately be available to the public who wants to access it.
Definitely.
Madam Ada in Jos, good morning.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Yori. Good morning to our guests there.
Indeed.
From Jos.
Stephen and Kacey.
It's nice to see you. It's nice to see you dressed to go with your topic today, Mr. Yori. You know, language, dressing, and what have you are part of one's culture. Now, a people that does not have, people that do not have a culture or work towards preserving the good aspect of their culture is working towards losing their identity. Your guests there, I want to find out from them. Just like you said, when I heard that name Ibelli, I was thinking he's an African American. Do you believe in shrines? Your guests there, do you
So what's your
believe in
question
shrines?
to Steve?
Do they believe in shrines, the efficacy of shrines, the African shrines or whatever? Do they believe in it? Let them tell us. God bless Nigeria. Let's not give up on our culture.
The thing is a bit low in studio, but did you catch that?
A little bit. I wasn't exactly clear on the question.
Ada, could you, we'll try and raise the volume a bit. Could you say that again, please? Oh. It was a bit too low, so it's a problem. Ada wanted to ask something, but did you hear that?
I just heard about cultural preservation, but I didn't really, I don't think the question was actually formulated by the time she got cut off.
Well, I think also part of it that we couldn't hear about was whether it was important, whether it was material that I think there's also the issue of well, we know, well, we can imagine that you're expatriates, and maybe she was asking about, look, does it matter being what you are and the beliefs entrenched in a lot of these projects, the world views?
Yes.
So does that affect anything?
No, it doesn't. I mean, that's what we're really trying to preserve. You know, we often get asked, what's in it for the U.S. government? And I always tell people, we're not like a company. Our bottom line is not really profit. Our bottom line is impact. And so this, you know, a project that is successful for us is a project that has impact. A project that is successful for us is going to progress the cultural preservation to the next generation. A project that's successful for us is involving the community, is involving the partnerships, is really exposing and propagating this worldview that we're trying to preserve.
Okay. Let's take it from Roland in Calabar. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Yori.
Thank you for calling in. Go ahead, please.
In the studio.
Yeah.
Madam Ada's question was actually an interesting one. She was asking if your guests believe in the efficacy of African shrine.
Well, yeah. Stephen just addressed it. But
okay.
Thank you very much for calling in. Stephen just addressed that issue. That really for them. Maybe paraphrase it a bit for.
Sure. Yeah, as I said, it's our interest is really impact. Our interest also is, as Congress envisioned, to show respect for cultures, to bring the cultural ties between the United States and Nigeria closer, and to work together with partnerships. And as Kacey talked about, bringing technology. Archaeology these days, you know, we think of the return of the mummy, and you're digging. And it's it's really high tech now, and so we also bring that aspect to it to share with our partners, so they can learn, so they can be trained, and this is why this training component, this digitization, use of technology, is really so important, because that also prepares the next generation to preserve the cultures even in a better way.
Okay. Well, there's a sense in which you do support, you know, the worldview of the community that you come to work with. You respect it, and you'll do whatever you can to help develop it, and that's it. It's an adjunct to other cooperations, as you said earlier, between the U.S. and Nigeria. And there's the whole trade, business, whatever. But this is an adjunct to that as well.
Absolutely, and an important one.
And a very important one. One more time then, maybe just talk about the website that people watching this could go to check that out.
Sure. It's our mission website. It's ng.usembassy.gov.
Okay.
And once you get to the website, there's an education and culture part. You just click on that and you will find Ambassadors Fund for Cultural Preservation. And as I said, applications are open until
December 5.
December 5.
And it ranges from $10,000
to $500,000.
to $500,000. Okay, what was the 1 million that we were hearing about?
The 1 million is what we have funded in Nigeria since 2011. So we have funded 10 projects in Nigeria for a total of approximately 1 million.
You know, there's such a lot more that we could talk about, but we've got to leave it here for now. And I'd like to thank you very much, Stephen Ibelli, for coming along, as well as Kacey Hadick, the new face of archaeology. You're missing the hard hat.
No, but he's got the tech. Right?
But he has the tech now.
Yeah, he's got the tech.
Thank you both, gentlemen, for coming
Thank you
on.
so much.
Thank you.
All right, then.